Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Barely Bookish podcast. Today, we are finishing the chapter "The Storm" of Kindred, and I am joined today with Candace.
Hi.
So then they go back to the house, and she goes and gets cleaned up. Her head is absolutely killing, so she decides to take Excedrin. But her head was killing, and I was like, maybe she'll get sent back this time.
Nope.
Nope.
No luck.
Nope. So she goes and gets Excedrin from Rufus's room, and Rufus is like acting like he's doing her this huge favor for getting her out of the fields, as if he didn't send her there. Like, this reminds me kind of like when corporate like people come in and they're like really being mean about like things they want you to do, and then they're like, I'm just the messenger, and you're like, really? Because you're just the whole message. I'm kind of confused. Like, what?
Mm-mm.
Like
Mm-mm.
Rufus could have just been like, "Yeah, don't do that."
Yeah, but like he needs to prove a point.
I don't know. I just it makes me hate him more that he's trying to act like this isn't his fault.
Yeah. Don't make me talk to you like that.
Yeah.
Don't make me disrespect you. I'm like, you just want to remove all accountability from this. That's not cute.
He is
Like taking
gaslighting her.
accountability is important. Well, this
Yeah.
is what I'm saying though. Gaslighting is all about a lack of like wanting to take accountability for something, right?
Mhm.
You'd rather pretend it didn't happen and convince somebody to retcon their own memory
Mhm.
than just take responsibility for something. Like that's embarrassing to me.
The other
Like
day.
to me, like that's not the way to go. And
Yeah.
I think people like, especially after the Trump presidency, people are like super down to just pretend that like something didn't happen. Like people are collectively pretending that like what happened on the 6th of January 2021 when people like stormed our Capitol that were domestic terrorists, that was fine and it was a normal day. Like that's some wild shit. And I feel like that's the same energy I'm getting from Rufus.
Oh yeah.
It's very big denial energy.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
I will say though, the other day I said gaslight gatekeep girl boss to Daniel, and then he looked at me funny, and I had to explain to him what both gaslight gatekeep mean.
Listen,
And
he has to learn.
that was my favorite thing. And then he looked back at me and he's like, gaslight, gatekeep, girl boss. And Rufus very much has that energy right now.
Yep.
Rufus says that she better not ever walk away from him again. And in this moment, I am not understanding anymore what his obsession with Dana is. Like, he has fully spiraled into, like, he treats Dana almost like he's like in love with her, but not.
Hmm.
And I don't understand where he is and like where Dana is in his head at this
I
point.
don't think he knows either, though. That's what I'm
Yeah.
saying. That's what I think. I don't think he really gets. Like he knows that he has control over the situation because he can call Dana to him, so
Hmm.
he feels a sense of entitlement about that. Not to mention the fact that he's also white and owns people
Hmm.
who look like her. Um, but I also feel like no one else sticks up for themselves. Like no one else like stands up to him. So
Hmm.
she's the only person that really like presses him in that way. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
So I kind of wonder if it's like that desire to kind of to like walk on the line of accountability, basically, right? Like he has a limit
Hmm.
with her because of his own, self, narcissism, like his own narcissism. Like he has to be in charge, he has to get his way. Like it's why something as simple as her just like not being able to save his dad puts her in a field. You know what I'm saying?
Hmm.
Like he's still a child. Like he never like fully grows up,
Hmm.
but he also chooses that. You know what I mean? That's on him. And I think that like he's obsessed with her.
Hmm.
That's what I think it is. It's obsession. Like I think you're right. Like he's just obsessed
Yeah.
with her. Like it's not quite being in love
Hmm.
because he like doesn't want to have sex with her and he doesn't want to like spend forever with her or anything. He doesn't make advances, but he like pays way too much attention to her. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
like she has a lot of control over his life inadvertently.
Hmm. This is just, it's become a toxic relationship for both of them.
Totally.
Yeah.
Totally. Thanks to him.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yep.
There's a part of me too that feels like he puts himself in these situations to see if it'll summon her. Like,
Yeah.
kind of inadvertently. Like,
Yeah, I can see that.
I don't know. Like,
Because she also helps him with his life. It's not like she doesn't, like mediate. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? Like she's spoken to Alice on his behalf, to Nigel on his behalf, to Sarah on his behalf, like, you know what I mean, to Tom on his behalf. So like it's not as though she doesn't act as a buffer for him. You know
Mhm.
what I mean, with dealing with other people.
Yeah, I just feel like she's also his crutch in everything.
Yep.
And like that's a large part of the reason I think that she was summoned this time, where he was like drinking and passed out.
Hmm.
Like I think that was because of uh him just subconsciously wanting her there.
Yeah, I could see that.
Chris.
Especially because he hadn't had very much luck with Alice, and like their relationship was all fucked up, and you know what I mean, like, and his dad wasn't doing well, like he was
Hmm.
in a bad way, and I absolutely think that he brought her there to prop him up for sure.
Yeah.
Hmm.
And then the other thing too is I feel real bad for Alice this chapter because she's like realizing that she's like basically she's got that what's that called? Stockholm syndrome going where she's like starting to care about him and I feel really bad about it.
Well, because she knows it's happening.
Yeah.
Like Stockholm syndrome is usually like, it happens over time, and
Mhm.
maybe the person, like you get eased into it, kind of, you know what I mean, like you find yourself one day like, oh no, but I care about them. And I think for people in Stockholm syndrome too, it happens and they're not aware
Mhm.
that it's happened. It's just one day they're just like, I can't fight anymore.
Mhm.
But for her, she's like seeing it, like she's watching herself
Mhm.
go into this, she's aware of it, like she says something to Dana. And that's the thing that I find the most terrifying, especially because for her this is a life or death situation.
Mhm.
You know what I mean, like that, like, and then it's like also a matter of self-respect, like to respect yourself is to be on, the kind of the end of your path of your journey.
Mhm.
We know that he's not above hurting somebody or possibly arranging for them to be killed or sold, right? So like for her, like she can either have her dignity and her pride and like be a whole person
Mhm.
and be beaten and answer with death or being sold off, or she can put her self-respect aside to play the game and then be alive.
Yeah.
Like that's an impossible choice.
Yeah. And also too it's like she has to still in a way make sure he's still interested in her because if he's not, what does that mean for her and her standing
Yeah.
here?
Yeah. Yeah, it's brutal.
This book fucks me up.
Yeah, in a big way.
So then Rufus just drops the bomb where he's like, yeah, I know you didn't kill Tom, but someone had to pay for this. And I'm like, no, they didn't, actually.
Ridiculous. And he's like, don't worry, I'm gonna have you pay by taking care of my sick mother.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
No one wants to do that.
Don't worry, Margaret Whalen is coming back.
Yeah.
Like, fuck
As if he's
no.
like helping
Please.
her.
Oh my god. Yeah, he acts like it's his duty, and then he's like, yeah, but you're gonna do it.
Yeah. And then she has to sleep in like Margaret Whalen's room too, on the floor
Dude.
for whatever reason.
Because
Like,
she needs to be there throughout the night for her.
and
Because she's a picky bitch.
the other thing too is like she won't Margaret Whalen won't let her have like a cot or anything.
Nope.
She's like,
Nope. And like and then the hypocrisy, right? Like we have this woman like literally trying to put her hands on Dana in the first couple of chapters, right? Um because she's reading to Rufus and she's
mm-hmm,
like, how do you stand this creature's voice? Like she says all these nasty
mm-hmm,
things about Dana. What's the first thing she asks her to do now that she's her personal servant?
read the
Can you
Bible.
read to me? Can you read to me like you used to read to Rufus? Gross.
Disgusting. And too, something about making her read the Bible felt even worse. Like,
Yeah.
she's like, I'll treat you as a subhuman, but read the Bible that's all about caring about people.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that was a tool that they would use to like keep people in line. Like they would tell the story of Moses and how he like freed all these slaves and be like, "See, one day there'll be a Moses and you guys will be free. It's just not your time." And the Bible says you should obey your master until that time comes. So just be good, and I promise the kingdom of God is waiting for you. And then people die believing that
Mm-hmm.
for 400 years. Believing like I'm going to get my great reward.
Yeah.
I'm going to go up to heaven and see the Lord. It's great. Go tell it on the mountain. Like, no, dude. These people
Mm-hmm.
are filled with hope, and there's all these like beautiful spirituals that they're singing, and they like genuinely believe that if they like are good and they do their best and they like work their asses off, that they're gonna like have their lives improved for 400 years. Like, that's crazy. That's nuts. Like, that's not okay.
I
You know what I mean? Like, that's not okay at all.
again in the afterlife podcast, I will have more to say about this because why I'm guaranteeing that everybody in the antebellum South is not in whatever the good place is
No,
at the end of this road,
no.
and
Fairly certain.
I will have a talk segment about where I interview people and I'll be like, "Hey, so did you actually like think you were doing right?" Because I need to know at this point. Like, I need to
Yeah.
know if in their heads they were actually fully convinced that they were good people.
I don't think that they thought that they were bad people because enslaved people were considered subhuman.
I also
So
want to
it's
know if they've
like,
learned.
yeah, like it's like if you're mostly nice to your animals, like again, like the ducks. If you feed the ducks outside your apartment, you're
Mhm.
automatically going to heaven.
Yeah.
But if you kick them every day, does it matter that you feed them? Does it matter that you're nice? Does it matter? Like, if they can't leave, they're not in charge of themselves. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
I don't know. It's so bizarre to me. Like this, how all of this happened and how like hard people try to cover it up and not talk about it. Like, I feel like this is something that should absolutely be discussed. Just like the Holocaust. Like the Holocaust is a terrible subject, right?
Mhm.
What happened, that genocide was an atrocity, but like to not talk about it is to disrespect the people who sacrificed their lives to create change. You know what I mean? These
Mhm.
people that had no choice but to die where they were transported. Like, it, to me, that's a huge disrespect and affront to their sacrifice, right? And that's how I feel about slavery too. Like, I think that having a better understanding of how all of this happened, I mean, think about 2017, right? Charlottesville, people fighting over whether or not a Robert E. Lee statue should be taken down. I'm pretty sure after you read this book, you're like, oh, it should absolutely be taken down. It was a symbol of everything that was wrong with our country, right?
Mhm.
We want to celebrate the good things rather than post a monument to the blights and the embarrassments. You know what I mean? Can you imagine if somebody was like a teen mom and they were like, you know what I want? I want a statue in Times Square of me as a pregnant 15-year-old. That's
Yeah.
what I want. Like, even if that's one of the best things that ever happened to them, right? Even if they're a great mom and everything works out and it's perfect and they have enough money for their kid and they have not one struggle or care in the world and everything's
Mhm.
lovely, I'm sure that's not going to be a moment in their life that they want to like put under a microscope. You know what I mean? Like, it's
Mhm.
personal. It was something that probably shouldn't have happened, or was a mistake, was not something you were anticipating. You know what I'm saying? It wasn't like a choice that you made that led
Yeah.
to greatness, so like, I feel like, fighting over something so stupid, like, it flies in the face of like everything that both black and white people did
Mhm.
to move this forward, to move us forward, as a country.
I had
It's silly.
a conversation about that like a year ago or so, or when that was all happening. I was talking to someone about that, and I I looked them in the face and I said, "In what other country do they give statues to losers?"
Yeah.
Like no one would give a statue. There's
Nope.
not a statue of like Hitler. Like there is
No.
like
Anywhere.
why do we have statues of people that lost the war in
Yeah.
Georgia? Like that's so dumb.
Because that's the thing too. I think people don't realize, and again, like, because we're not calling it domestic terrorism for
Mhm.
January 6th, they don't realize that they're in the same ilk of those
Yeah.
Confederate soldiers, right? What were they trying to do? They were trying to rebel against the American way of life. America was like, we want to move forward.
Mhm.
We need to stop this. Our founding fathers did right about kind of their intention to end slavery. We need to just do it.
Mhm.
Like, we need to finally do it. We need to pull the plug. It needs to end. We have to figure this out.
Yeah.
And the South was like, you're not taking our slaves from us. We like this way of life.
Mhm.
Their lives don't matter to us. Like, we need to continue living the way that we've been living. And that's what makes the world go round. And that's what makes everybody money, right? So it's not even as though these people are just losers. They're traitors
Mhm.
to our country, right? Like, our country was like, all right, listen, like, we're going to be better now. Like Mean Girls. Like, when Mean Girls, like, you know what, guys, this isn't really funny. Like, we're beating the shit out of this girl every day in gym class, in the locker room. It really sucks. I'm tired of it. Like, I just want to be better. And then the next day, like, that girl gets jumped by the rest of her shitty friends.
Mhm.
Like, that's basically what happened,
Mhm.
right? And at what point do you not want to like identify with that anymore? You don't want to celebrate that. It's embarrassing. It's
Yeah.
awful. Like, people in the antebellum South were like, didn't know what was coming for them, but people during like the Restoration, like, those people were like, let me distance myself as far as possible from the losery shit that happened. Like, let's
Yeah.
completely devalue Confederate dollars. Like, we can't even trade them in anywhere. Like, people lost money behind that shit. It was serious. You know
Hmm.
what I mean? So the idea that like nowadays people want to softball it, I'm like, this is what I'm saying. It's not just disrespect to like black people. It's disrespect to like those people that had to kind of claw their way past this moment in time, like these soldiers that lost their lives over this. You know what I mean? Like these
Hmm.
Union soldiers that had to like defend us from these traitors. You know, it's
My favorite
history
thing.
is so interesting and so complicated.
My favorite thing is asking people who wear Confederate flags to name something that the South actually believed in.
Wow.
It's one of my favorite things
Wow.
because they can't think of something.
Yeah.
And I like it. I like it
Yeah.
very much.
Well, a lot of people are like, oh, it's history because they don't realize that it was actually like tucked away
I'm
after
like,
the war.
it really wasn't. Or
People
it's
were wanting
like,
to distance themselves from it. They were like, "Don't show me that flag. That's the flag of a loser. I'm
yeah,
embarrassed." You know.
yeah.
It wasn't until Jim Crow laws that they were like, "Actually,
People are so dumb.
so dumb." Yes, and that's what I'm saying. Even now, right? Like, there are so many opportunities to like educate oneself because of the internet,
Mhm.
right? But a lot of people just kind of like believe whoever they watch. So, like, I watch CNN. That's what I believe. I watch Fox News. That's what I believe. Like, I look at all news outlets because not everybody tells the truth. You know, and to me that's it's dangerous misinformation spreading.
I don't watch any because they're all freaking liars. And my favorite thing is to watch TikToks and kind of find out from the main sources. And
Yeah,
then I'm just like, wow, this is really weird. And then I look up news articles after.
yeah, then you fact check.
Yeah. And then I'm
Mhm.
like, is this actually happening? Or there's this person that does like under the desk news on TikTok. Have you seen that?
Mm-mm.
Oh, it's my favorite thing. Hold on. I have to send that to you really quick. But like, I'm just going to send you their profile so you can look it up.
Mhm.
But it's like, they go under their office desk wearing like a suit and they're like, hey, these are the news things you should probably look into later. So Rufus was like, hey, because I feel real bad, you get the rest of the day off. Like, okay.
Mhm. Mhm.
Yeah, thank you. It's almost like, I don't know, man. I keep trying to relate these to modern day problems, and I feel like I should just stop now because,
Yeah,
like, what?
you can't.
I can't.
You can't. It's just too wild.
I know.
Like he's asking her like, so can you give me advice about like babies? And she's like, I am not an OBGYN.
Yeah,
And he's like, what's that?
right? I know. He's like,
You
basically,
have a vagina. You know how they work.
it's like, have you ever been in a meeting and they're like, "Oh, you're a Gen Z. You know how every Gen Z works ever," and you're like,
Mhm. Mhm.
"Yeah, no, I didn't know."
I
A
know we don't
single.
like being called Gen Z or talked about as though we are all one person.
Mhm.
I know we don't like that. Is that helpful?
I know. I'm like, I would love, like, all I know we do want is a little bit of RESPC.
That's it.
Yeah. Oh my god, my favorite thing. Anyways, so, yeah, Margaret wants Dana to take care of her. And she's like, "Oh, I want you because you read so well," as we talked about previously.
Mhm.
And then Margaret has to like also supervise everything the whole time she's home. She's back to
Yep.
micromanaging for
Yep.
who knows what reason.
She has nothing better to do.
Literally, like Margaret also gives like the worst mother-in-law energy.
Oh yeah, for
So
sure.
bad.
She has to be in charge of everything. She like asks her a bunch of stupid questions. She's like, "Oh, you're better now. You're less impudent." Like celebrating that she's been, you know, beat a couple times and like
Yeah,
knows her place. Like just trash.
I hate her so much.
Like when I think that moment when Dana is just like she's just had it
Hmm.
and she just like runs out of the house and it's just like fuck it man. Like I've had it. Like she runs out of the house. She's like I don't know what I'm going to do. I'm going to be master of my own domain. I'm going to walk. I'm going to just go walking
Hmm.
and we'll see what happens. I'm just going to walk like I'm supposed to be here and I'll figure it out from there, I guess. And she just like leaves and it's like a big moment. Like I read that she just started walking and I was like, "No girl. No. Go back." And I'm like, wait, I can't tell her to go back to this like horror house, but at the same time, it's safer there for you somehow.
Uh huh.
Terrible. right? Especially after like what happened to Alice and how they brought her back. Like, no.
Dude, I was
So
reading it and I was like pushing it further away from me.
yeah,
I was
man.
like,
I was like
ah.
sweating. It was bad. So like I see that, right? And
Mhm.
then she sees like the chain gang, right?
Mhm.
And like the chain gang idea like is something that like I think was used by like Bugs Bunny and like Disney and whatever, right? Like and
Yeah.
made kind of silly. But like it comes from these types of situations, right? Where you
Mhm.
have some slaves that are being, you know, sold off and they're walking to auction because like why
Mhm.
would you put them in a carriage when they could just walk miles and miles and miles behind your carriage, right? So they would have them chained together like all like in a row, right?
Mhm.
Sometimes in stocks, which is like incorporating your neck and your arms and your legs, and then sometimes just your arms and your legs in chains. So when chain gangs started in prisons, that's where that comes from, right?
Mhm.
Like that same kind of practice. And even like, you know, like the people that like would, you know, be kind of in charge of overseeing, like again, those are overseers. You know what I'm saying? They just got a new job
Mhm.
in law enforcement essentially, right?
Yeah.
So I think like when the moment that Dana sees them, I'm just like, please, can you just go back now? Like, can you just go back? Like, it is awful to think that like you want to send this person back to this place where they are oppressed and they are victimized daily.
Mhm.
But like in that moment, I was like, you don't know these people. Like, you're not safe with them, you know?
Yeah.
And it was heartbreaking when I realized that they were going to the Wayland farm. I
I
was like,
know.
fuck. Who's going? Like, who is it this time?
I know. It's and then also like I was thinking about this too. I had have you watched season 2 of The Witcher?
No, I'm about to start.
Okay. I won't really give you any spoilers, but there's like a scene in season 2 um with like elves, which you know in The Witcher elves are like a secondary class
Mm-hmm.
citizen,
Yeah.
and this is like that scene is very reminiscent of this moment, which like seeing it on TV, just text me when you get there because
Mm-hmm.
like we'll have to talk about it.
Okay.
But like it was a lot. It this scene's already hard, and then seeing it on TV made it worse. Which
Yeah.
is why I'm terrified, but also hopeful to see this as a movie whenever they
Yeah.
make it,
Mm-hmm.
because it's gonna be really hard to watch.
It is, but it'll be a worthwhile watch
Yeah,
for sure
for
if
sure.
it's in the right hands. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, I don't know who I would trust to make this movie.
I feel like Ava DuVernay would be an obvious choice. I don't know what her situation is like.
Hmm.
I know that two people tried to like steal some of this plot line and turn it into a movie with Janelle Monáe called Antebellum that
Hmm.
apparently got panned hardcore. Um,
Yikes.
yeah.
What movies did the lady you talked about previously? What did she do?
Ava DuVernay, I can't remember if she was nominated or she won for Selma, that Martin Luther King biopic a
Mm,
few years ago, starring I think David Oyelowo, I think is
okay.
how you pronounce his name. Um, that's a pretty good movie. I think John Legend actually became an EGOT that night because he won an Oscar
Mm,
for the soundtrack. Um, she also directed Madeline L'Engle, A
okay.
Wrinkle in Time.
Oh, I've been meaning to see A Wrinkle in Time. I haven't seen
Me
it.
too. I
Yeah,
haven't seen it yet either. It was on Netflix for a minute and then it left, and now
I
I have to
know.
just check it on Disney Plus.
It was on Netflix. Oh, I guess I do have Disney Plus. I forget that I have
Mhm.
Disney Plus because I don't pay for it. Well, you didn't hear that first here, but uh, like I forget that I have access to it because I don't watch a lot of TV,
Yeah.
anyways. But I've been doing it now when I'm like doing mindless tasks at work. So maybe I'll watch it. But I heard it has like a religious undertone, which always makes me nervous because I'm like,
A lot of old school sci-fi does.
yeah. But
Like
it's worth
Wrinkle
watching anyways, I guess.
like whatchamacallit definitely does. Lion the Witch in the Wardrobe.
Yeah.
Yeah. Big time.
Yeah. I, I was reading someone making a joke about C.S. Lewis and Tolkien because I
Mm-hmm.
guess they were friends in real life.
Mm-hmm.
And they're like Tolkien, I guess, while he did do a good job, but I guess he was friends with a lot of people um that were like Jewish. So
Mm-hmm.
while he didn't do the best job, I guess he was like trying to like represent Jewish culture or something in his
Mm-hmm.
books. And then they made like this skit, and he goes, "Yeah, like I did all this research," and he goes, "Oh, well, I made a lion god." And he's like, "What?" If I find the skit again, I'll send it to you because it'll do a lot better job than me. But
Okay.
yeah, oh my god, it made me laugh so hard. I think I saved it somewhere, but I'll try and find it again.
Awesome.
Uh, anyways, um, so as we were talking about, as soon as Dana realizes that they're going to the Wayland farm, she's like, "Oh my god, I need to turn around," and
Hmm.
she starts going that way, to basically be like, "What is happening? Who is he
Yeah.
selling?" And Rufus is selling Tess, which is uh the girl that like that was the girl they didn't really like, right?
So they thought that they didn't like each other at first because she was really like short with them.
Yeah.
But then when that one lady had words about Dana and like got Dana
Mhm.
in trouble or whatever, the Alice and Tess
Oh, okay.
went after her, and Sarah, like, no, Tara, I think it was Tess and Carrie
Mhm.
went after her to be like, shut the fuck up, right?
Mhm.
Um and I think that Tess, I feel like Tess was one of Tom Whalen's girls
Mm.
that he would take to bed. And
Okay.
I think that's why she gets sold when Margaret comes back,
Probably.
because of revenge.
Probably. Like
Yeah.
she just wasn't talked about a ton. Like enough that we knew her name, but like she wasn't super in the story, I feel
Yeah.
like. But yeah, Dana's still like, this is someone I know. This is a human being. You can't
Yeah.
sell her.
Yeah.
And Rufus will not listen, and he starts dragging her inside, and then he calls the people that he's selling his property.
Mhm.
And like this is the first time I feel like Dana has fully like understood, like this trip is the trip where she's like, he is Tom.
Yeah.
Like
He hasn't changed.
no,
He's
like
grown into exactly who she thought he was going to be.
yeah,
Yeah. And she has to just face it.
yeah, yeah. Carrie has to cover for Dana and
Mhm.
basically tells her that if the house goes to Margaret, Margaret will sell everyone.
Yeah. Yep. Yep, because she has no like allegiance to anybody. She has no
Yeah.
warm feelings for anybody. Yep.
Yeah, and like Carrie has to cover because Dana can't even like process this that this is happening, and Carrie has to go like basically be Margaret's manservant
Mhm.
and like follow her around so that she doesn't really notice Dana's gone.
Yep.
Um, and then Dana goes and confronts Rufus and literally says that she wouldn't care if he died right now. And I was like,
Mhm.
"Go, girl, love that for you."
Listen. And like I feel like his like kind of like lukewarm reaction
Hmm.
is a mark that, like, again, like, I mean, you were saying like you would love to ask people from this time period, did you know that you were doing wrong? Like, I
Hmm.
feel like that's 110% the proof that he knows.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? His like very
Hmm.
reaction to that.
Then this next line is something I really wanted to talk about.
Hmm.
Rufus starts making Dana write his letters, and
Yep.
apparently Kevin told Rufus how much she hates to do his writing.
Yep.
One thing, why did Kevin talk about that?
I would love to know,
Right?
because again, if he's talking about it very
Hmm.
much like with Rufus, what we just finished saying,
Hmm.
if he's talking about it, that means he knows it's a fucking problem, doesn't
Exactly.
he? He knows that she doesn't like that. He knows it's an issue.
Hmm.
So why are you bringing that up to somebody who is no friend to her?
Exactly.
Yo.
And then also, it's like, then Rufus uses it against her immediately. Like he
Yep.
already knows how much she hates this. Like this whole trip, he's been doing things to purposely like put her at arm's length and like
I feel like
show him who's
he's
boss.
Yeah, I think he's testing. I feel like he is testing their boundary
Mhm.
as well, right? Because he's been crossing that line a lot, and she has had kind of no other choice but to allow him to do that, right?
Mhm.
Because of the position that he's put her in,
Mhm.
and the kind of baseline inequity of their relationship in general,
Yeah.
right? Like she has no control over when she goes there. So, you know what I mean? Like it's pretty clear that like no matter what, she has no control in
Mhm.
this situation. It's all kind of just mental
Mhm.
power, right? Which is kind of an illusion in a world like this that values physical power,
Yeah.
right? So I feel like that's a moment where it's something she's been dreading and possibly not really seeing coming
Mhm.
this whole time, right? And he's like, I've just been nice.
Yeah.
Like I know more about you than you realize. I've got your number, kind of. You know
Mhm.
what I mean? It's a very strange kind of like power shift in their relationship when he kind of pulls this on her, in my opinion.
Oh, yeah.
Hmm.
I'm just so mad. I am also like, because we don't really know what Kevin's up to.
Hmm.
I cannot wait to get to the next chapter
Yeah,
because
I gotta
like,
know.
oh my god. There's a large part of me that when I finish this book kind of wants to just restart it, but I know we're
Hmm.
going to the graphic novel, which will give me the itch that I need.
Yeah.
So at least we'll have to talk about that and then we can re-examine everything. It'll be great.
Yep.
So, also in addition to like doing all of his writing, Rufus also has her going through his books, which like how complicated could your books even be in the 1800s? Like not that bad. I don't know any
Mule.
Yeah. I don't know anything about accounting and I'm sure I could be like, yeah, and
Listen, it's basic addition and
yeah.
subtraction. Like it's not as though you're like lending large amounts of money or paying numerous bills a month. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? And you have like a loan and all that stuff. Like I'm sure they had that on a very minimal scale.
I know. Like
Especially knowing that they were a poorer family. It's not like
mhm.
they're like a fancy estate.
Yeah.
Hmm.
God, I wish my taxes looked like that.
Yeah.
Ugh. Bought one pig. Bought a
Yep.
little sheep.
Yep.
Bought sheep
Basic.
food. Yeah.
But this is what I'm saying. Like I think that like he's just somebody who's a giant baby. Like even like when Margaret asks Dana like, "What have you been doing for my son? Like, what is he? You know, you barely come around anymore." Because Carrie kind of swaps off with her to
Mhm.
give her a break, and like she's like, "What have you been doing with my son?"
Mhm.
And Dana's like, "Oh, I'm writing letters for him, and I'm fucking doing his books and stuff." And she's just like, "What? Really? Tom used to do that himself." Like that, I feel like that's the first time we hear Margaret be critical of her son.
Yeah.
She was like, Tom always used to do that himself. Like, he makes you do that for him? Like, why
Yeah.
would he have you do that for him? Like, there's other things you could be doing. Like,
Mhm.
what? You know? And like, it makes it's even more of a question because you know he's only doing it because she doesn't like it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Because it doesn't make sense for her to do it. It would be much easier for him to just do it himself and for her to be doing backbreaking work.
Yeah.
But he's like, I know what you really hate
Mhm.
being with me and writing letters.
Cuz it's like here's the thing too is like I don't know about you, but I write a lot faster than I talk.
Oh, sure.
So having to then have someone transcribe what I'm saying, it just sounds annoying.
Yeah. Yeah. But again, it's not about that.
I
Like it's
know.
about control. It's about that power. Like he's awful.
I know.
He's so awful,
Like
man.
I feel like he saw that like her working in the field didn't change her attitude at all. I was like, let's go for mind manipulation instead.
Yeah, awful.
What a trash bag.
Yep.
Dana also did the thing that I said Kevin should have and started keeping a journal in shorthand so that
Hmm.
no one can read it. I also never learned shorthand, but this makes me
Me
kind of curious
either.
about it.
Right?
Right?
I'm like, how hard could it be?
I know.
How many lessons do I need? How many YouTube videos?
Right? And it's just like, God, if I can, because apparently there's a transcriber thing that like people who do professional live transcribing
Hmm.
do it in like, and it only has like 6 keys,
Yeah.
and
Like
it's,
in stenography too. Is like
I
that.
think that's what it's called, the
Oh yeah.
sonography. Yeah.
Hmm.
And, and I'm like, I really want it and I want to know how to do it because I
Yep.
hate transcribing my own stuff. Like when I have to transcribe it because I hate typing.
Yeah.
And I'm like, if I could do that, the
You
power
can
I would
unlock the
hold.
keys to your future.
What?
Yep. You can unlock the keys to your
I
future.
know. I'm like,
Hmm.
transcripts would come out so quickly.
I agree.
Oh my God. Something about it. Anyways, this is my little thing. Like, if I had all the time, if I was a mortal being, like immortal being,
Hmm.
this is what I would take up my time. I would
Agree.
read so many books.
Yep.
I would learn the sonography thing, and I would learn shorthand, and then I would learn other languages.
Agree.
These are the things I want.
That's the dream.
I would make so little. I would be the brokest vampire ever because they'd be like, "What do you do with your immortal life?" And I'll have to be like, "I spent 400 years learning shorthand. I am very good at it." Like, and they'd be like, "Why did it take you so long? Like most people like learn that in their mortal life." And I was like, "Because I'm the best at it."
Yeah, you're the shorthand
I
master.
would also learn calligraphy because
Same. I'm so bad at it because I'm lefty, so it just gets smeared everywhere. But
but
I'll
like
never give up.
I know, and it's like because here's the thing: could you imagine being a vampire with the only vampire with trash handwriting? Like
No, that's
everybody,
embarrassing.
yeah, and everybody around you is like 1800s vampires, and they've got those beautiful scrolling words,
Yep.
and
Because they send each other letters and shit too. I don't think
absolutely,
that. I mean, I'm sure that they're like young vampires that use email and text messages
hmm
and shit. But I'm sure there's old vampires that are still like, gotta write to the old country.
yeah. They're like, let me
Need a
write home
wax
to Pop
seal.
Pop, you know.
Yeah, yeah,
And the
for sure.
first time I would get a letter from like an older vampire, and it's like got a wax seal on it, and it's beautifully written, I'd be like, "That's son of a."
Look
I,
on internet.
yeah,
Calligraphers in my area.
I would then be like, "Hey, Skillshare, do you want to sponsor the podcast?" Actually,
Seriously.
and they're like, "Man, this is a very random request for you not having that many listeners." And I'm like, "Oh, is it?"
It's quality, not quantity.
Yeah,
Okay, calm down.
yeah. We all are very concerned about how to have the best handwriting possible. Totally unrelated to the fact that I haven't seemed to age in the last 10 years.
Why are you in my business? That's fucking breach of privacy.
Yeah, I would pull a corpse moment and they'd be like, "How old is she?" You know, we've never seen her face. And like, I'd be like, "Oh, weird. I don't know why you haven't. I can just do this podcast forever. My voice has never changed. Weird. I never seem to get a cold. How strange."
Just in good health.
Some good
Nothing to
health.
see
I
here.
take a lot of probiotics.
That's all. I shop at Whole Foods.
Yeah. I have, a really extensive self care routine. Every year I go on yoga retreats. That's my secret.
There you go.
Oh my god. I loved all the topics that I've somehow managed to weasel into these episodes.
Listen, we need a little bit of levity because this book is heavy.
Yeah.
So we need moments where we perk back up
Hmm.
and then we dive back in.
I know we should get shot right back down.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I like that this next part is at least a party.
Yeah.
Sort of.
Sort of.
However much you can party when you're a
Hmm.
slave. But
Yep. Yep.
an attempt is made.
Yeah. Yeah, so they're at that party. People are getting married. Apparently, for budgeting, because apparently it's that expensive to
Yep.
Rufus, everyone gets married at once, which is something. It's truly
Yep.
something.
It is.
Um, and then Rufus asks Dana if she's found someone she wants to, quote, jump the broom with, unquote.
Yes. So that is an old African tradition.
Mm-hmm.
That was something that like was important and is still important to a lot of African American people and BIPOC people who get married, because it is something that is like a piece of that ancestry
Mm-hmm.
that was never like beaten out of people. Essentially,
Yeah.
like it's something that has been passed down successfully through generations of people across actual millennium. I mean,
Yeah.
centuries rather.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's something that people have been doing for a long time, and it's something that like I probably will do at my own wedding. And like I think that it's a piece of like present day history,
Mm-hmm.
kind of. I like it a lot. I like that tradition because there's so little that was able to be kind of unadulterated by slavery and untwisted by slavery and unchanged.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So being able to have that one ritual that still is just as meaningful now as it was then is something that I think is awesome.
I was gonna say, I was like, when I was reading this, I was like, this seems really familiar. Like, I feel like I've seen this before.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if I've actually have or if I've just seen a lot of like similar stuff, like that like breaking glass
Hmm.
with your foot.
Yeah, Jewish people
Mhm.
break a glass. I know that Wiccan people and people who are descendants from like Celts and things
Mhm.
like that, they do hand fasting,
Mhm.
um, which is really a really beautiful ceremony as
Mhm.
well.
Yeah, I feel like I've just seen a lot of similar things. Maybe that's what, but I have like this visceral image in my head of this. And I don't know if I just have a good imagination or what it is. Maybe I have seen
Hmm.
it before, but I don't know where I would have seen it.
Hmm.
Maybe I've seen it in a movie or something.
Probably in a movie,
Yeah.
yeah.
Hmm. Maybe. But yeah, Rufus asks if she wants to do this with someone, and she's like, I literally have a husband. But like, what would you do if I did? And he goes, oh, I'd sell him.
Yeah.
What?
So there you go.
For what reason, too?
Like, what trash is that, right?
Yeah.
Like such garbage. And like he's already thought about it. Like it
Hmm.
was easy for him to answer.
Hmm.
Mm-mm.
I know. It's just, I don't even know what to say about it either. Because it's like, it says a lot too about their relationship.
It does. Especially because he doesn't go after her. Like she walks out of that conversation.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? He doesn't go after her or anything like that. And like and that's how you again, that's how you know all of this is something that he chooses for himself. Like this is a
Hmm.
chosen lifestyle, right? And I think that the reason that Butler kind of has this narrative, and what this is supposed to prove, I think that this is an answer to people like, oh, well, you know, people who were enslaved weren't treated that bad. Like I feel like this whole book is kind of a wind up to kind of have that conversation, to conduct that, you know, analysis of
Hmm.
behavior, because you know Rufus has all of these experiences, right, with very positive experiences with a black person that saves his life, right, showing him that people who are enslaved are people, they're humans, right, you
Hmm.
own a human being, someone who's just like you,
Hmm.
right, like he has all of these examples and all of these opportunities to give it up and he never does, because he chooses that life for himself, right?
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people at this time period chose that life for themselves because it was easier than just living a regular life, right?
Hmm.
Like it was about status, and you know, like even then, like some of the letters she has to write for him are like letters to like other farmers' daughters to try and like, you know, land a bigger fish. You know what I mean? Like he's all about that bottom line because like it helps make his life cushier. Like he's learned absolutely nothing
Hmm.
from his encounters with Dana, right? From the moments that he shared with Nigel or Alice, right? He's learned absolutely nothing. And I feel like this chapter is like when Dana like really has to like confront that
Hmm.
and face that, you know what I mean? Because again, like even though he's like really shitty about like, oh, if you had another husband, I'd sell him right away. Like you can't be with anybody else unless it like benefits me, right? Um, Even after saying that to Dana, then Alice is like, oh, he gave me a Christmas present. He's letting our son learn how to read. Like he's going to educate our son, right? So like on the one hand, you're going to be that terrible where you're going to sell people off like right before this like holiday,
Hmm.
right? You know, antagonize people that work there. You antagonize this person that's supposed to be like the closest to you,
Hmm.
right? You put her in the field and alienate her from you and from everybody that she and everything that she knows,
Hmm.
right? Like he's done so much damage, but then is like, yeah, okay, my son can read. Like, what a bizarre concession to make of all concessions,
Yeah.
right? Like he's more Tom Whalen than Tom Whalen ever was, but he's allowing one slave to read, and he's keeping his son and his mistress, his wife, enslaved.
Yeah.
Like, like that's, you know what I mean? Like he's a madman. He's
I
crazy.
know.
He's a nut job, and I think Dana's like, fuck, he's a nut job.
Yeah.
Can Hagar please hurry up and be born? Because like I'm kind of sick of this shit now. Like this is, I feel like this is the first time we really see her where she's just like done. Like she's hopeless. Like she's just
I
like, I
know.
don't know why I'm here. I'm just waiting for the baby. Like she's done.
I know. I and it was astounding to me like how much this trip really solidified to her that she's like, I cannot keep trying with him. Like it doesn't change. Like nothing
Yep.
changed.
Yep.
Um so one guy keeps trying to talk to Dana and Rufus is starting to watch him and she's like, oh, I gotta tell Sarah to like tell him to step off. Like
Yep.
things will not end well for him.
Yep.
Um and then as we just mentioned, Alice convinced Rufus to let Dana teach their son to read. Joe, who is their son, is apparently
Mm-hmm.
very smart, which is
Mm-hmm.
very good. Dana says that uh, she. Oh, wait, sorry. So Dana says that she thinks he's really smart to Rufus, and
Mm-hmm.
Rufus like starts paying attention to their kid,
Mm-hmm.
which is just like I can't imagine having a child and just being like, whatever.
Yeah. Now, granted, it's wild because that's exactly what basically happens to him. Like his dad's just like, well, got a son,
Yeah.
shrug. So like it's definitely an echo of like what happens to him, but like it's even worse because like, you know, his dad at least still wanted the best for him. He
Hmm.
doesn't want the best for his kids. He
No.
doesn't want anybody to ever leave him.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? He doesn't want anybody to have freedom of choice because they're not going to want to be around him. Like he knows he's not a good person. He
Yeah.
would rather control than like give somebody the benefit of the doubt.
Do you think that maybe Dana coming and going so much in his life has made him worse for the fact that that's why there's a part of him that like is afraid of people always leaving him?
I mean, I could see that, but I also think that the negligence of his dad and like the smothering of his mom would have
Yeah,
probably made him the exact same person even without Dana.
probably.
You know what I mean? Because like he's just so used to getting whatever he wants, so much so that when he wants Dana to show up, she does.
Yeah.
Like if anything, that deepens his entitlement, his
Mhm.
sense of entitlement.
That's for sure. He's just the
Mm-hmm.
worst, and I feel like there's no excuse for it obviously, but like I don't know, man. I cannot even begin to understand him sometimes.
Yep.
So Alice asks for Rufus to free their child, but Rufus says it's going to cost her.
Yep.
But won't tell her what that cost is, of course.
Why bother? You're
Yeah.
gonna pay it anyway.
The only thing apparently that Alice thinks it could be is Rufus wants Alice to love him. And she's like, yo, as soon as this kid's born, I'm gone. I'm out. I'm outie. Goodbye.
Mm-hmm.
Which, like, power to Alice for still planning, even though she went through that, like, harrowing experience, for her to, like, plan to leave still.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but now we have the latest baby, and Hagar is born.
So, like, something I like about like this kind of like cosmic joke, and again, like I think a lot of slave owners thought that their slaves were stupid, right? Black
Mm-hmm.
people were considered to be less than human,
Mm-hmm.
right? We were considered to be more like animals. And there were even, I mean, as recently as like the early 1900s and mid 1900s, there were like, like racist journal articles published about, how animalistic we were, right? And how our frontal lobes were like, in animals or whatever, like just really
Mm-hmm.
disgusting racist rhetoric, right? So what I really love about, when Hagar is born, he hates that name, right? He can't understand it because he's not smart. He hasn't gone out of his way to try to like understand anything. But like Alice has educated herself, whether it was through, Dana or even before that when she was free, right? When her and her mom were free and she was a kid. Like she's an intelligent person. And I think back then, like they just kind of assumed that slaves were just dumb,
Mm-hmm.
or they had no interest in thinking for themselves rather than they were afraid and doing everything they could to just stay alive and have some semblance of life,
Mm-hmm.
right? Which is the reality because she's named all of these kids these like really like, obviously like, like it's the word I'm looking
Well,
for.
biblical, like,
These they're protest names,
mm-hmm.
honestly. They're all biblical for sure, but
Mm-hmm.
they're all like names in protest. So like Hagar, for example, right,
Mm-hmm.
is the concubine of Abram.
Mm-hmm.
And basically it's like Hagar like symbolizes like Alice's role where like she's enslaved
Mm-hmm.
and she's the concubine of somebody who owns her,
Mm-hmm.
and she's forced to have a family with them, right?
Mm-hmm.
um Joseph, I imagine, is Jesus's stepfather, Joseph,
Mm-hmm.
right? Who like, has a son, even though that's not really his son, and he kind of just has to like put up with, what happens.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? He kind of just has to move forward and like, be there for Jesus and take care of Jesus without, any kind of understanding as to like how all of this came together, right? He's kept in the dark.
Mm-hmm.
Also symbolic of her position with Rufus, right?
Mm-hmm.
Then you have Miriam and Aaron. and that one's like huge. So I don't know if you know about the story of Miriam and
Mhm.
Aaron, but Miriam and Aaron are Moses's brother and sister. So you know
Mhm.
Moses, the story of Moses, right? He is found in the river, and his mom, picks him up and fosters him, and he's a Hebrew baby, but they don't know that. Like I think his mom knows, because of like where he comes from, the direction of the river, like where he comes from, like so the mom knows, but like no one else knows, including Moses,
Mhm.
that he is not Egyptian. He is actually Jewish, right?
Mhm.
So he's a Hebrew, an Israelite. So I mean, I guess not an Israelite because Israel wasn't a thing back then, but you know what I mean.
Mhm.
So basically, like Moses grows up, right, thinking that he is Egyptian, thinking he's like his brother's going to be Pharaoh, and he's going to be like at the right hand of the king and all this stuff, right? And then like one day realizes, oh shit, no, I'm actually a Hebrew person.
Mhm.
Um, and I am just like these slaves. I've just been rescued,
Yeah.
right? And these people continue to toil, and even though they've got it easy, that doesn't mean that like that's what their life actually is, right? And he starts to kind of make that connection. So Moses's sister, like his actual real life sister, um in this legend, in this belief system,
Mhm.
is Miriam, right? As a
Uh-huh.
matter of fact, the Hamsa, that like beautiful hand symbol in Judaism
Mhm.
and some Islamic religions as well, with the eye, the evil eye in the
Mhm.
center, that's actually called the hand of Miriam
Okay.
as well by some people, right? And she's like a symbol of like freedom and a symbol of like freedom fighting, because both her and Aaron are enslaved while their brother goes free.
Mm.
So she's naming these children these like protest names,
Mhm.
right? These names that are like, I'm gonna get my kids out of this. Like Miriam and Aaron helped free all of the Jewish people that like right alongside Moses, right? They were part
Mhm.
of his crew that assisted in all of that, right? They were the people who were at his right hand. So like you have all these names that are like names of hope,
Mhm.
and names of like that an activist would would use, kind of, you know what I mean? Like
Mhm.
she's got these like very controversial
Mhm.
names, but he doesn't even realize it because he's an idiot.
I love
Like he's an idiot.
Alice
Like
for
he has
this.
no idea. Like it's so like wow. Like Alice is such a character.
Alice is that woman. Like,
Yeah, man.
love that for her.
Unapologetic.
As she should be.
Oh,
Um oh yeah, I literally wrote my next note wrote, I know these are biblical names, but I don't know anything about them. So I'm glad you're here to fill me in because
yeah.
I didn't read the Bible. So
Yeah, so neither have I. The reason I know about that is the Prince of Egypt. I'll be honest with you.
really.
I was religious when I was a kid, and I remember watching Prince of Egypt, and I was like, I should go back and read that, and that's why I know about it, because like I watched that movie, and I was like, I feel like I haven't read all of that before.
Mhm.
Um, I used to have like this giant like Ben Zigger's Bible stories book.
Mhm.
So I would read it in there first, and then I would go to like the actual Bible and read it. But it's like super intense to read the Bible. I don't know if it's just me. But I did try. Every time I try to read the Bible, I'm like, I'm going to do it. I'm going to read the Bible. I'm going to read the Quran, and I'm going to read the Torah. I'm going to do it all. I'm going to see how they all intersect. I'm going to go on this journey. And then I get like to the end of Genesis every time. And I'm like, okay, that's enough. I'm
Yeah.
fine. I'm fine.
I
I'm good. I know all of this already.
My mom, when I was a kid, wanted us to be like better Catholics or whatever. And so we started reading it, and I could not get through it because I thought it was so freaking funny.
Mm-hmm.
Like, everything is so funny. Like,
It's very
it
dramatic.
is, and you've seen how I dissect literature.
Mm-hmm.
It hasn't changed. So
Yeah.
I'd be like, wait a minute, you're telling me while Jesus is treating somebody, someone falls through the roof of this house? Could you imagine? Like he's treating this guy for like leprosy, I think.
Listen, they used to have thatch roof cottages back
I
then.
know, but
Maybe
you're
that's what
just
happened.
like, this is so tough
It
for you,
happens in Sword
man.
in the Stone. It does. You got to justify
I
it.
know, but all I did was I was like, hold on one second, and I'm like, with my whole family sitting around, my mom's reading the Bible, and I'm like, so you're telling me he's like, hey man, I know that what you're going through is the hardest time of your life, but I got you. Don't you even worry about it. And then as he's like comforting this dude, someone falls
Yeah.
down through this roof and is like, hey man,
Like an episode of How I Met Your Mother.
yeah. I can't. Every time I read the Bible, like And I've only tried to do it once because it's not for me. It's
Yeah.
not for me. I'm not the one.
It's not for everyone,
Yeah.
man. It takes a special kind of interest, I think, to
So
get through that.
funny. I just could not get through it. Okay.
That's what I'm saying though. Like I think that like that message is so great though that like,
Mhm.
you know, this woman is enslaved, right? Alice, like she's
Mhm.
enslaved and like we're having a hard time reading the Bible like today, right? I imagine back then when you like barely know how to read
Mhm.
because people, you know,
Won't teach you.
gatekeep knowledge. You know what I'm saying? They gatekeep knowledge and you're not allowed to have any. So like you scrape and you like sneak and you do everything that you can to like fill yourself in, right?
Yeah.
And then you're reading the Bible and like people are telling you, no, the Bible holds the key to your salvation. And then you read the Bible and you're like, no, it doesn't fucking say that. No, it does not, right? Because she even says, she's like, in the Bible, people might be slaves for a while, but they didn't have to stay slaves. Like,
Yeah.
that's the lesson that this lady has taken from the Bible. Not, oh, yeah, one day it'll happen for you, which is what they were verbally telling slaves back then. But, like, the Bible says that there will be an uprising
Mhm.
and we will get ourselves free of this fucking situation, right? So that's what I'm saying. Like, by using, inadvertently, by using religion as a tool,
Mhm.
they created a more resilient group of people because they were like, I've got God on my side.
Mhm.
I'm coming out of this alive. Fuck you, right? I'm gonna live just to spite you,
Yeah.
right? So I think that it's, I don't know, it's so interesting that this lady is like showing her like lack of agreement and her protest and her putting her foot down and like just being as, you know, showing her dissent, like her hardcore dissent through the naming of her children. Like that is badass, man.
Love that
That's
for
deep.
her. I do.
Oh yeah, that's deep.
So Rufus starts letting a bunch of the kids be taught, which is very
Hmm.
cool, but I feel like he's doing it for his own gain, probably.
Oh yeah, certainly,
Um,
certainly.
and then Alice says she's planning to run at the beginning of the summer. And then this is also the point though where we find out the real reason she's planning to run is because she's developing Stockholm syndrome.
Right.
Um, and then Sam, the man who had talked to her before, approaches Dana again. And it's like, "Hey, I really want you to teach my siblings to read."
Yep.
And then apparently Rufus saw this, and 3 days later he got sold.
Yep.
And then Sam's sister called Dana a whore when Sam was getting
Hmm.
sold, and then Rufus slaps her, and I'm like, oh my god. And then Dana, at that moment, as soon as she sees this happen, goes upstairs and slits her wrist to try and get out of this.
Yep, because it's like way too much.
Yeah.
Like she realizes, like in that moment, I feel like she realizes like the impact that she has not just on Rufus's life, but the lives of every single
Hmm.
person on that plantation. And it's just like, I gotta be done, man.
Yeah.
I gotta be done. Like it's awful to know that she puts herself in harm's way to get out of that.
Hmm.
But at the same time, it very much echoes what a lot of enslaved people had to deal with. Like
Hmm.
that's what Toni Morrison's book Beloved is about, you know, a mother who has to make the ultimate sacrifice in order to keep her children from being slaves, right? So, you know, that's something that like that's not just like, this isn't just like an off thing that's happening in this book. This is like historical. Like
Hmm.
people used to off themselves and kill themselves or their children or, you know, their partner or whatever, like in moments when you weren't sure what was going to happen next because the atrocities visited upon you might be worse than anything you could do to yourself.
Yeah.
So like that's essentially what we're seeing here. Dana's like, it's time.
Hmm.
Like I can't, you know, do this anymore. I
Hmm.
can't stick around anymore. Like I'm now hurting other people.
Hmm.
Like I'm messing with other people just by existing here.
Hmm.
Like I've got to go.
Yeah.
Like it's so scary that like suicide is like her only way out. Like that's fucked up. Like that's bleak.
Hmm.
But that's bad, man. And she's still, so this is the end of the chapter.
Hmm.
We get to the end of this section. It's the last word on the page.
I know.
And we still don't know how this woman lost her arm.
I know.
And the book is getting real thin.
I
Okay. We're
know.
getting real thin in this book right now. And I'm like, why don't I know how this lady lost her arm?
Yeah.
We've got maybe what, 15 pages left to read.
I know. And the other thing that terrifies me is we don't know if she goes back yet.
This is what I'm saying. Literally anything could happen.
I know.
Sorry, we have like 40 pages. Excuse me.
Still,
But
that's
I'm
not
saying
enough.
we're getting down to like the wire
I
here. And I'm
know.
just like,
I'm really
this
stressed
is going
out.
to be very stressful. This is going to be the most stressful 40 pages you've ever read in your life. Guaranteed. I don't even remember what happened, so I'm extra stressed out because I feel like I should be able to guide you through this, having read this book
Mm-hmm.
already. But I must have just blacked it all out because it was very stressful.
Mm-hmm.
Because I do not have clue one
I will
how
say
this ends.
this is the hardest part about doing the podcast is like I've literally been on this cliffhanger for like 3 weeks now.
Yeah, same,
I know.
same. I have not read ahead because I didn't want to come to this conversation tonight and like do
Mm-hmm.
I mean, in role playing games, you call it metagaming,
Yeah.
where you like know the secret.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to. I don't want to know the
I
secret.
didn't want to
So
peek behind that curtain, to be honest. I was like, I'm gonna let
yeah.
myself sit in this stress because we're just recording next week at the time when we
Oh
did
yeah,
this.
that's how it started.
Yeah, and then it was like,
This is how it's
and
going.
then it kept getting pushed and pushed and pushed, and I'm like, I need to know.
Yep, yep. So I'm really glad that we are at this
I
place,
know.
because there's a lot of loose ends that need to be tied up in this book right
I
now.
know. I'm so
Man,
nervous.
I can't wait.
Yeah. So the two of us will be joining you next week with we'll know the rest of in the ending. I don't know how many
Hmm.
episodes it'll take for us to get through because honestly, uh
It's gonna be a lot.
yeah, as of the recording of this, I started editing the first episode. And yeah, this series is going to be a lot. Like
Oh yeah,
it's probably going to rival Little Women in amount of episodes. So, which I'm excited for. I think that yeah,
same.
it's a good one to talk about. It has a lot that we need to talk about, and I think
Hmm.
that it won't feel as long as I feel like the Little Women episodes did, whereas there was just kind of a lot of repetition, but still a lot of chapters. This I feel like is going to be a lot better, and I think everyone will enjoy it. So
Aw,
I'm excited.
yay!
Yay. But we will join you next week with hopefully finding out how Dana lost her arm.
Seriously,
If we don't, I'm going to be kind of mad.
I have to
I
know.
know. Okay. But Candace, how can people find you on the internet and all the things and lovely things you do?
Hello, everybody. You can find me on the interwebs. If you're looking on YouTube, it is Candace the Magnificent, all one word, CandacethemagnifI, Magnificent.
See? There
CENT.
we go. We got there together.
I spell for a living, and yeah. Anyway, so you can find me at Candace the Magnificent on YouTube, as well as on Instagram, all one word. You can see me do some ukulele videos. I have some ice cream reviews. I'm also going to have a new grown up show and tell thing I'm going to do with some of the cool stuff in my house. So keep your eyes peeled there. I will also be doing, probably by the time this comes out, I'll be doing a weekly Sunday night game on Twitch. Check out Todd Moonbounce, all one word, on Twitch. He hosts my mothership game called Dead Planet. That's going to be Sundays at 8 p.m. You can find me on YouTube at Valor Studios, in a series we did called Deadlands, the Hellgate trilogy. All of these are tabletop role playing games. I'm into a lot of kinds of stuff, guys. I can have layers.
Yeah.
So yeah, check out any of that, and then obviously check me out next week right here on the Barely Bookish podcast.
Yeah. And I will have links to all the things I can find links for in the URL for you. So,
Oh, and I'm
or,
at that Candace girl on Twitter.
I said
I
URL.
always forget that
I
one.
meant description.
I knew what you were talking
I'm
about.
glad you did because I sometimes I edit these. I'm like, what? Anyways, but we will catch you guys next week. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you all so much for listening to this episode of the Barely Bookish podcast. If you want some more exclusive content, please consider joining the Patreon. You will get bonus access to a bunch of exclusive episodes that I've been doing for almost a year now. So there's quite a few exclusive episodes on there. Plus you get early access to episodes. So you get your episodes on Monday morning instead of having to wait until Wednesday morning. Also, you get just a bunch of different cool things, and you get to join the Discord, and yeah, there's a lot of fun things to do. Please consider joining. Plus, it helps support this Patreon, or the podcast. It helps support the podcast. and I appreciate everybody who has joined it and who's thinking about joining it. I am hoping you guys are having a lovely day. Thank you so much for listening. Our logo was designed by my little sibling Sarah. Our theme song was by Raphael Crux on freepd.com, and it's Camp NaNoWriMo. So get to writing. If you want some writing sprints, please consider joining me over on twitch.tv/barelybookish. I got a lot of writing sprints I'm going to be doing over there because I'm trying to get this book done. So yeah, I'll catch you guys there and see you next week. Bye.